Welcome back, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. I super appreciate it. This week we're going to be finally looking at actually a new series that I've never personally really looked at. I've played part of the Metroid games, but I haven't really played a ton of them. Metroid seems to be one of the fan favorite series among Nintendo fans, but I just never seem to pick it up. I have a lot of the games. I have Metroid 1, I have Super Metroid, I have the second Metroid game on the 3DS. I haven't really played anything with the Metroid Prime games, but it just didn't seem like it was my cup of tea until I played this game that we're going to be looking at today, Metroid Dread. Metroid Dread just seems to be one of the better games in the series, and I think looking at this game, if you're not a Metroid fan at all, this should change your mind and make you a Metroid fan. But how good is it to make you that much of a Metroid fan if you're not that already? Well, let's take a look. Here's the intro. It's weird that when I was looking at the development for this game, the development for this game actually started in 2002. Like, seriously, were they twiddling their thumbs or something? After the success of the Metroid Prime series first game, they wanted to go back to what was considered normal gameplay for Metroid. The developer Yoshio Sakamoto drew inspiration from Metroid Fusion's SA-X and considered looking into a fear-based gameplay, not to make Dread a horror game, but a scare your pants off game. The game had been stated to have been tried to be developed on the 3DS twice, but was not seen the light of day. However, in 2006, the game was supposed to be at E3 but never appeared. A message in Metroid Prime 3 had a message stating that Dread is near completion. However, the game was not talked about for a few years. In 2010 though, the game was worked on again from scratch. The game would make an attempt to go on the 3DS, but other projects seemed to get in the way again, and Dread still would not see the light of day. However, out of the ashes, and just on a normal day, a Nintendo Direct showcased a new Metroid game, Metroid Dread. The game would finally get a light of day it deserved. And on October 8th, 2021, the game would finally come out on the Switch, under the name Metroid Dread. The Galactic Federation finds evidence of a new X-Parasite has returned and can mimic any creature it infects. The creature lives on the planet ZDR. Samus, who cannot say no to the moolah, decides to investigate as she's the only person in the entire force who is immune to this. Samus encounters a Chozo in the undergrounds of the planet, and the jerk destroys the exit and strips Samus of her armor. Well, if she was able to strip any more, she would become Zero Suit Samus. Samus, with the help of her computer companion Adam, Samus takes it to Farinia, and after an encounter with this thing called an EMMIS, I'll get to these fetchers in a minute. While finding Quiet Row where they turn off the EMMIS, thank goodness, Samus decides to chase after Ravenbeak, the Chozo who attacked Samus at the beginning. During this, SR-388 was trying to be destroyed by Samus. During this, gets destroyed and causes an outbreak on the planet. Coming back to Quiet Robe, she opens the gate and then gets wrecked. Coming back to Quiet Robe, he opens the gate but then gets wrecked. Samus sees the X-Parasite and sees Ravenbeak unleashing it on the poor planet. Samus destroys the last of the EMMIS, gaining some energy and becoming super powerful. She makes it to the floating fortress Itoresh, something like that, where the final battle ensues. Samus wins the battle, turning into this weird thing, and destroys Ravenbeak for good, then has 2 minutes to escape ZDR. She does, flying away with Adam, with the game ending and the credits rolling. I've seen Metroid games played before, and this one's story is super involved, like for real. The story is very good and full of bad A cutscenes and interesting characters that does not really have a head till the end of the game. I've seen Metroid games played before, and this one's story is super involved, like for real, the story is pretty good. Full of bad A cutscenes and interesting characters that does not hit ahead till the end of the game, which isn't a bad thing in my opinion. I think the story is very tightly written and very good. The story for Metroid Dread is actually pretty good and probably one of the more unique stories I've seen in the series. Again, I haven't played a ton of Metroid games. This is the only Metroid game I've beaten. But as far as I could tell, it really is more involved as a story, and it probably is the best story in the series. I haven't touched the Metroid Prime games, which people tell me the stories are better than those, but we'll have to look at that another day. But how's the gameplay compared to the story? Let's check it out. Well, looking into the gameplay, this game is the definition of a run and gun platformer. You run and shoot. Jump in and shoot, woman. Yeah! Anyway, the movement is super tight and smooth, along with the shooting. Moving and shooting is very smooth, but ducking sometimes feels like it was super cumbersome at some points because of how the aiming is. I would aim down on the floor instead of ducking, and at some points it would be super frustrating as I would duck instead of aiming down when I wanted to aim down. I mean, seriously, there are some points where you have to fight these things called EMMIS. I can't stand these things. I know I left that thought unfinished, but hear me out. Remember when I mentioned the developers wanted to make this game scary? Well, the EMMIS are basically what they made for scary. Okay, and I'll admit, these things are super creepy. Look at the way these fetchers move. Holy cow, it's like a spider moving towards you, except instead of a spider you can easily flick off, you freaking die every time they catch you. Now, the scare factor goes way after the first one. Like, seriously, the first one is creepy and easy to get away from, but the rest are just stupidly annoying. I can't tell you how annoying and dumb this decision was. Like, I get it. Make the gameplay more anxiety-filled by means of these things. But my goodness, though, did you have to make them frustrating as all heck? Like, seriously, they're fast, they could freeze you, or you could just be in the wrong spot due to RNG. But this is what I was trying to get at earlier. When you kill these things, you have to aim, which is so awkward, and it's kind of annoying as you have to find a stupid spot to kill them. Which, though, when you do, is super satisfying. Like, oh, you caused me so much pain. Come here, come here, come here. Well, here you go, suck it! Now, this is really how you get some of your abilities as well. For real, though, getting your abilities is not just from these ball things, and I like this. I think it's a really good idea. You get this ability, you get the abilities in this game, and really, like any other Metroid games, you need some of these abilities, and in doing so, will help you move on with the game, and helps you take on bosses, helps you get to different heart tanks and missile tanks, things like that. Bosses in this game are freaking difficult, though. Oh my gosh, dude. The game's bosses, I don't think I ever got to the boss and beat it on my first try. People gave me tips. I looked up tips online and nothing worked. I hate the difficulty, but man, the bosses are so cool, dude. I believe this big dude is named Kraid. Thank you, Nintendo brother, for correcting me. And this boss is so freaking cool. Like, he's a bit gross, but so cool. And he falls down harder than harder when you defeat him. And the final boss is epic as all get up. This isn't like other final bosses in the series. This is an epic confrontation that keeps your heart pumping until you beat him and wreck him with this cool Metroid suit. The graphics in this game are so freaking good. Also, one thing to mention in the combat, you can hit enemies when the light comes up and it's so satisfying when you get it. So many missiles and health drops from doing this is so freaking awesome, and I really like this idea. But it just makes confrontations in the game so much easier and better. The combat, from what I can tell, is the best in the series. But looking at this game, I'm so glad it came out on the Switch, as again, the graphics are stunning as all get up. Every environment along with the character models looks freaking awesome. Although Samus looks quite strange with her helmet and stuff, but I digress. It still looks pretty good. So there are not many songs in this game, but from what I heard, it's really, really good. I think the best thing about this game's sound is the sound effects. The shooting, along with the menus and music that plays when you get a new ability, is awesome. The one thing to note, though, in the intro cutscene, I don't really think the music fits here. I have had that complaint before with something like Custom Robo, where basically people complained about the placement of where music is, but this really is just trying to be a little too epic in like a more serious moment. But all in all, the gameplay is super solid, and I hope they make more like this one. Except without the EMMIS. Fetch those guys. Metroid Dread to me is an instant classic on the Switch. And I could see why it got Game of the Year last year. It's just one of the best games, not only as a Metroid game, but one of the best games I've ever played. Sure, it has its issues like the EMMIS I mentioned earlier, and some of the difficult can be kind of BS. But really, if you're trying to play this game for the first time as a first-time Metroid player, I really think it does actually do a good balance of keeping people who are interested in the series involved, but also getting people who have never played a game in the series or played just as little as I have involved. I really think Metroid Dread is one of the better games on the Switch, and I think it's definitely something that you should check out. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'll see you in the next episode.